And jolly good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Here I am, your griot, Sensei Al Bob. I'm watching TV. I haven't done that in months. Oh, there's somebody there. Let me tell you guys, you got to print everything in caps. I can't read. Let's see, just watched. Well, a friend of mine got sick, and that where I can actually truly help, I show up. And I told John that I'd probably show up Sunday. Michael? So, what do you guys want to talk about? You know? Like I said, I'm at my friend's house who needs my help, so that's why I'm here. Now, John, he doesn't seem to ever listen to my help, or he just wants to do what he wants to do and run through his laundry list, and I'm ready to help him. But, it's been 4 years and it's pretty much the same story. And I've been, out in the woods, and I've learned a number of things. And one is the most important to human emotion is patience. Maybe that's not an emotion that needs to be a more or less a practice. That's what it should be. And humility, that's also a practice, right? When you realize that you're not the only one, that your life really isn't about you, it's about other people. And those you can help and those you can't. And I'm watching this show called what is it called? What's it called? The Prisoner, that's what it's called. Very interesting show. In the early 60s, kind of had from Uncle and sci-fi. And there are all these people who were important, had a lot of information, and they're stuck on an island where they can have a very comfortable life, or they basically can be tortured. And that's the kind of life we live in. We live in a life where can easily be tortured. Just living this life can be a torture. And that's kind of what John's going through. He's torturing himself. And that's what we all do. We all torture ourselves. Or we can decide to not do that. Why are we here? What is the story? Why are we here? So why are you here, guys? What's your response? Well, yes, where I live out in the woods, there is, no cell signal. I had to drive miles to make a phone call. So, and I have very limited resources, and to drive, and the cost of gas these days, to drive, 20 miles one way and then 20 miles back to hear John go, sorry. I worked so hard. Really? Working hard is someone who's working at McDonald's with 2 kids and no husband, right? Because they pay them, $7.50 an hour. You know, John has never had to experience that. Yeah. Anyway, so James, I can't see that too well. Let's see, James and Michael. So, what do you think life's about, James and Michael?
Followed by accepted behavior pattern, since then has been uncooperative and distinctly aggressive, attempted to escape. Something exceptionally difficult, but in view of his importance, no extreme measure is to be used yet.
No extreme measures to be used yet. Going out west? Well, would you feel safe driving in a car with John going out west? I'm going to try and see him next week, and I'm not. My car is not in the best shape, and the driveway is 2 miles of a riverbed. So I'm going to give him a call and say, "Hey, John, come meet me for breakfast downtown." Now, if he can't even do that, then how could I conceivably want to drive across the country with him? I would like to. It'd be fun. It'd be interesting. But I have to think of my own safety. I mean, he's thrown me out of the school 32 times, right? And a number of them late at night, when I can't see too well. I mean, when I can't even read what you guys say. Christine, hey, good. Right. So, the bottom line is, if John wants to really work at retrieving a life, otherwise he's going to be up there the rest of his life. They keep saying, "Oh, I want to kill myself. I want to kill myself." Well, that won't help. We kill yourself. I've died 6 times. I didn't kill myself, but I died 6 times, and each time they sent me back because I hadn't finished what I was here to do. So I got 3 more lives, and I make the best out of it. I had a friend come visit by me 2 weeks ago, weekends, and she came by. She's what I call a graduate student. She has her master's, and she's going for a PhD. And anyway, so she's quite entertaining and fun, and she loves my company, and so that's I really enjoyed that. Well, no, he doesn't need a girlfriend. What he needs to do is, be able to, live a life. You can't expect someone to fix your life. It's not going to happen. You got to fix your own life. Right?
If this gadget is so important, how did you give up? I knew the last pilot. You did this for Colin. I'll meet you by the same boat at 2 o'clock. Goodbye.
Ooh. So we all have to get a life, right? And I spent the last 2 years out in the middle of woods, reading and meditating and getting a perspective. I've always had a life, but I was getting a perspective. Because we look at the world around us today, and it seems to be totally insane. But if you're a student of history like I am, it's always been insane. This is never, I lived in New York City in the 70s, when the crime rate was like 1,000 times worse, right? The only time New York City went bankrupt, they couldn't mow the lawns, they couldn't do anything. They had to fire half the policemen, right? And what was interesting, when they fired half the policemen, the crime rate went down.
Eyes not on the game. My apologies. Checkmate. I'll give you another chance.
No, excuse me, I'm not on form today. I think I'll take a little stroke.
Try the boat.
What?
I said try the boat. She's great in any weather. Sailed a many a time. Have a good trip.
And the telly is like, main mining mind control, right? That's why I lived out in the woods where I have nothing, no internet, and I drive when I go see my doctor, get my car fixed, go talk to my guru, my computer guru, pick up some food. I never do anything just once, I don't go 40 miles to talk to John, and he hangs up on me, I don't want to talk about that because I always want to talk to John. So how you doing? I want to kill myself. No, what? That's not really. I mean, so what are you doing, Tim, right now? I mean, what do you? I work so hard. Oh, what are you working hard at? Because he's got that house all fixed up. The only thing he hasn't fixed up was the road. The road was, I don't know, 4 years ago. The other people who live on it put money together and got a guy with a bulldozer who cut the road first time. Like back in the '60s for George and Inga. And so I went and talked to him, and I said, "Listen, what do you charge per hour for your bulldozer?" And he says, $80, right? Well, he's already there. He's got all the equipment there. And I said, "Okay, let's go up and take a look." I said, "This is what needs to be done." Da da da. He said, "Okay, $300, right?" And so the guy goes up there to start to clear the road, so it'd be easy to drive in and out, right? If he wants Danica to live in that house, she's never going to want to drive up a riverbed. And so John came out and screamed at him, and then had him knock down a tree, and then gave him $300. When I talked to the guy, I said, "Well, the guy's out of his mind, and he gave me the $300. Said I was going to fix the whole road just to knock the tree down." And so, I mean, that's John. And he doesn't want to have a life. He just is happy to be anxious with a laundry list. Right now, a great deal of us are like that. I mean, in reality, everyone is like that, unless you are consciously aware, and then you have an intent on what you want to do. You're not going to get too far. And it's very simple. It's like consciously aware I am. Consciously aware I am. Consciously aware I am. Om. Consciously aware I am. Consciously aware I am. Om. Then you become aware. You become aware of yourself, aware of your surroundings, aware of the people you're with, how they're feeling, and how you're affecting them. Right? Other thing is, I think about, okay, what do I want to do? I want to basically be able to utilize my talents and who I am um, for the outlook, the betterment, the work in progress of the human race. And I have been spending the last 70 years doing that. Sometimes consciously aware of it and sometimes not, but always doing that. It's quite interesting. So I I'm basically able to do that. And that's what makes me happy. And so I write uh, and read, and I use that not to build a wall around me. And that's what religion does, it builds a wall around you, and keeps you stuck in that worldview. And you can either be a prisoner to your illusions, or you can have a life. Oh, let's see what you said here. Think he needs a girl? So I mean, it's interesting. Every time I just talk about common sense things, the electronic world goes nuts. So, James, your keyboard isn't working. You type this out. Yes, the keyboard's working. Oh, holy moly. You're going to see more of that. The world that we are in is just hanging on. It's the, as I call them, the hidden hand is just hanging on by their fingernails, right? Because what happened was back in 2000, Danny, you remember that? Oh, the computers are going to crash. Oh, well, they had to reset the clocks. That's what they did. That's what that was about. And then, less than a year later, we had the towers of Babylon falling, right? And that started war, never-ending wars around the world.
We're all pawns for here.
We're all pawns. Uh-oh. We're all pawns. Uh-oh. Now he's not leaving the island. And we can't escape our karma and our dharma. Let's see. I really don't. I mean, I do bop in and watch John's channel, but it's the same thing all the time. He goes on about the Bible. He doesn't even read the Bible. I went to a seminary to be a Catholic priest. I read the Bible in Greek. That's really the Bible you should read. Forget King James. He was just an advertising agent. But the Greek one is quite interesting because it was the words of Jesus, not Mark and Paul and Larry and Moe. Pawns and guinea pigs. Yep. But you don't have to be. See, that's the interesting thing. You don't have to be. I lived with a Shinto priest in Putney, Vermont, and he taught me many things. And he showed us, that you could control your own reality. Right? And one day, when he was trying, lecturing us and showing us, because he would do it in state, meaning we would all go into state and we'd be in another universe, right? And so that was quite interesting. And one day we went, there was a Holiday Inn down the highway from where we were, and we would go there once a month, um, and party. He said it's good to go, have a nice steak, a lobster, whatever, because they had pretty good food. And they always had a band on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and so we would go to that, and sometimes we get rooms, if we felt frisky, and we would go to Sunday brunch later on. But one day, one of those times, we just went out for the night, and everyone got blitzed. Now I don't drink, I just, I do. I mean, I have a glass of wine, I have a glass of good whiskey, but not a bottle. I never get drunk, and I get just two drinks, and I sip. I don't go. I sip. I enjoy it. You know, and so I was always the designated driver. That's why I worked in rock and roll, and recording producers love me because I never got drunk. I never did drugs. I mean, I'd smoke a boo, but I never got right, and I never looked at. I hate, my body hates cocaine, so I couldn't do cocaine. So, you know, um, I, um, so here we were in Putney, Vermont, and basically, Sensei orders like a couple of bottles of gin, right, and just glug 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 glug. Right? And everyone's just had 4 or 5 drinks. He's just had 2 bottles of gin, and so he, um, we're all kind of staggering, except for me, staggering around, and we get into our little van, and he says, "I'll drive." I said, "Sensei, you never drive." He says, "Well, I'm driving tonight." But Sensei, they're out here. He just drank 2 bottles of gin. I can't believe that you're standing up. So he goes, "I'm going to show you something." And I go, "You sure you don't want me to drive? I'm totally." And I don't think you have a license. He said, "No, I don't." I said, "Okay." So we all got in. I made sure that everyone buckled up. I said, "Okay, so I say take off." So he takes off, and we're just zipping down the highway, and we get pulled over. I mean, pulled over. We go through a roadblock, and they're looking for drunk people. And everyone in the van, except for me, is drunk out of their minds. And so they're giggling, they're vomiting, and the guy goes, "Have you been drinking?" And Sensei goes, "Of course." And sir, how much have you drank? He said, "Well, I've drank 2 bottles of gin." And he said, "What?" The cop did. "What?" Step out of the car. And, Sensei's in his orange robe and, and his shaved head, and kind of like my head these days, but not quite. So anyway, the guy goes, "Sir, would you mind taking a breathalyzer?" "No." Right? Sensei blows into it, nearly explodes. I mean, it's like off to the edge. He goes, "Sir, this says you should be dead." Really? 2 bottles of vodka, gin? What? And he's, "I have to get my superior." So superior comes over, "Sir, this is very important. This is very serious. You could go to jail for a long time for this. We want to make sure that there is no malfunction. So we're going to use a different machine. Would you blow into this one?" "Not a problem." Blows into it, looks at it, and it's like 0, And he goes, and then he goes, "Let me blow into the other one that I blew up. Does it still work?" And it said yes. So he blows into that, and it says 0. "You got another one? I'll blow into that." So he blew into 4 different breathalyzers, and they all came back 0. And he goes, "I guess it must have been a mistake." And then they were about to say something. I said, "Excuse me, officers, I have a valid license. I haven't drank anything. I'm sober. Why don't you just let me drive everyone home, and then there's no problems?" And the superior said, "That's a good idea." Because he was, this guy's in a robe. He's a priest. Everyone kind of knew about the Hambu. So he said, "Okay, you drive." So I did. But that was Sensei showing us that reality is illusion, right? We did other things, but I won't go into those. But, um, you know, and a few of us kind of tried to say, this is a learning opportunity. Let's see what you guys are saying. Christine, boyfriend, yes. Jay says, my tablet just blew up. Let's see. You've been watching his channel? Like I said, just I don't watch anything really. Let's see, Michael. Pawns, guinea pigs, yes. Pawns, guinea pigs, large, large print. Thank you, Mike. What's that? Mandates? Well, in reality, okay, here's a good question for you guys. What are you? Okay, what are you? What else is that here? Let's see. Life so far has been reflecting on life experiences. Yes, very good. Don't go with John anywhere you can't walk back. Exactly. Being out in the middle of Minnesota, middle of winter, you got to be kidding me. So, I care about him, and I will go with him if he will. Like I said, the first thing I'm going to try is I'm going to, there's a nice little breakfast spot, 3 miles from his house, right? I've just driven 200 miles, right? And I was staying with my friend who needs my help, so I can stay here pretty much as much as I want, and so I'm going to call him up, next week because I have a bunch of things to do between now and after Monday. I'm kind of free, and I have a few other appointments to see people because I didn't just come here for John. There is a lot of Roanoke is a very political place, and I've been in the midst of that politics for 20 years. So I know everybody on every side, every side. Rich people, poor people, white people, black people, you name it, people. And that's the thing about Roanoke. I used to be paid pretty well to do demographic studies on trends, right? What's going to happen. And I used to drive all over the East Coast and into the Midwest. And then I found this little strangeness right in the corner of Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, and North Carolina. And that's the deep green, right? And the folks there are what, or at least the folks were there, used to be what Hillary Clinton called the basket of deplorables. And they're not. They're not stupid. They're not deplorable. They're nice people. All humans are nice, except when they kind of get carried away, right? In religion or politics or anything. You get carried away in anything, and that's called addiction, right? So things are occurring in our country, and Roanoke is very interesting because things kind of like the Tea Party. Tea Party started in Roanoke, and I noticed it because I hang out with everybody, and I saw people. This is way before Occupy, and they were having signs, about how terrible the government was. And then I stopped, pulled over, talked to people, and they said, "Well, you're one of us." I am. I'm a human being. And so they said, we have these meetings at the Holiday Inn on Thursdays. So I went over there, and I kind of sat back and listened and came back next week because they had a nice spread. Nice spread. They had coffee and tea and sodas and water and lots of, like little bar food, right? And because their bar, after 4 o'clock, had bar food. So they would roll that into us. And so by the third time, I started talking to the guys who were running the meetings, right? And asking questions. And so one time they said, "So, are you an operative?" And I said, "Well, I'm not, but you guys are. So who do you work for? And they kind of looked at each other and said, no. I said, no, you're not even from this state. I watched, because once I leave here, I go into the bar and talk to good-looking girls, not these folk, and stick around for the dancing and have the lobster dinner, because that place had great food, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, really great food and music, and it was like where everyone came to hook up, and they had a pool in the middle of this hotel. They had this pool, and they had it surrounded by trees and bushes, and they kept the lights really low. So you get a little blitzed with some cutie, and said, let's go for a swim. Oh, can we? It's a pool. I said, oh, yeah, come on. So we go swimming, and I said, why I didn't bring my trunks? And I would like, jump in naked. I said, come on. I said, listen, no one's going to care, So that was always fun. And that's the kind of town Roanoke really is. It's a fun town, but it's because it's this, I don't even know what to call it. It's a very strange place, but it's got everything. It's got every kind of thing there is there, right? And it's my little laboratory, one of them anyway. And pretty much when I meet someone who can communicate and enjoy my company, and I enjoy their company, that's a relationship, But otherwise, everyone is,
Still be neighborly. I'll do a deal with you, number 6. You tell me one thing, and I'll release you. Why did you resign?
Release me from the village.
Now, that's really all we want to know. Not so much to ask, is it? If you insist on staying here, I do hope you'll make some attempt to settle down. Try to take part in community life. This exhibition that's coming up is our home.
Anyway, that's life, Yeah. You either take part in it or you don't. Yes, microcosm. That's Roanoke. Microcosm of America, of the world, really. Don't go with John. Yep. We can't walk back. Yep, exactly. So, like I said, I'm going to see if he'll come to breakfast. If he can't come down and come to breakfast, then how could I, conceivably, go on a road trip with him, right? And I'm willing to go up there and stay with him, but he has to agree to certain parameters, like not be violent, not throw me out in the middle of the night, things of that nature, right? So, anyway, you guys got any questions? I'm gonna go to sleep. Okay. But now I'm at a place that has Wi-Fi, and so I can do more shows. And so I'm going to try and do one every day that I'm not out and about, or maybe I'll do it when I come back at night. Okay? So it's not a big deal. So, but I'm glad to see. I'm glad that you all are here on the chat, and think about. Let's start a little conversation, not about John. I mean, he, like I keep saying, he is the canary in the social coal mine. He really is. I mean, he is a great barometer of what's going on with the psyche of the country, or at least that neck of the woods. And the problem is that this issue has been going on, not just with John, but the world, pretty much for recorded history, right? If you study it, pretty much the same stuff over and over again. And that is because, okay, no one's answered tonight's question of who you are. I'll tell you who you are. You are the decider. You're put on this planet to decide what you're going to do with your life. Not like, oh, I got to pay my bills. Oh, I want to be with this person. I want to be with that person. Oh, blah, blah, blah. I want to be an A-lister, blah, blah. I've done this so long, I should be famous. Good luck with that. I've done a lot of things so long, and I was more than famous. I was freaking infamous. But at a certain level, it meant nothing. And I told this one story about meeting David Bowie in the Mud Club. No, it was Danceteria. And I showed him a very interesting evening. He's an interesting guy. And I took him to this place where mobsters were, doing bowling, but not AMF, but like pinball, not pinball, but small. You could hold the bowling ball in your hand like this. And there was no machine to reset it. The kids would be back there putting them down, and the guys would be throwing the balls down the alley at the kids. And the kids there was a net. You had to like set the pins and jump out of the way before these things, because the ball wouldn't hurt you, but the pins, when they went flying, they'd knock you out or hurt you. And so and around that alley was a roller skating rink where titty bar girls were roller derby girls. And they were, beating the crap out of each other, in not much clothes on, which is kind of what roller derby is. So anyway, and I took David Bowie there, and they had really nice food and good wine, and these guys weren't stupid. The mobsters, they weren't stupid, and David Bowie was amazed all the stuff that they had read and known, and and he was just looking at all of the circus that was around, and it was on top of a parking garage, right? And I had the little key, open it, and push the button. We whoop up to the top, and because I used to fix the elevators in that, they had very Frankenstein elevators, and that was my thing. And that still is my thing. Is I can do new work all day long, but and I kind of enjoy it as I get older, because to have to deal with people's screw ups is not good for me anymore. I just kind of I used to see it as a challenge when I was young. I never did it enough, right? So anyway, but the interesting thing was that David was so enamored with my way of living and my life, and he thought he was, out on the town, and because I kept, when we walked from Danceteria downtown, went to two other clubs, and there was, the line and the rope, and I was, they all, I'd be dressed like I was dressed right now, and the people who were all dressed like that glamour, they would say, hey, you're not, you don't look good enough. You're not dressed, and I would walk in like this, and well, what about him? Oh, he's the dude, And so I took him into Wetlands. I took him to Wetlands, and what was the other place? Might have been the Mud Club. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, so I then we walked downtown. Went through Chinatown, and I took them to the real dim sum parlors, where everyone only speaks Chinese, right? And the lady who owned the place, she, come down, because I constantly fixed her machines. When no one else would touch them, I would fix her kitchen, right? So you do that, you always got a great place to go eat, right? The same thing with Luna's. I bet you Luna's is still open. Go Google Luna's in New York, in Little Italy, right? And did you guys know that there were two Little Italies, one on the east side, one on the west side? Anyway, so you are the creator, and you are the decider. And back in the day when the burning bush talked to Moses up on the mountain, he said, hey, go to Egypt and free our people. And what he meant was not free them from the Egyptians, because they weren't slaves. They were, upper middle management, right? And they were living, they had slaves, they had nice houses, they had a nice life, but they were losing their connection with their spirit. And so that's what Moses was supposed to do. And that's why they were out in the hinterlands for 40 years, because he was waiting for them to get on board. with the burning bush. Anyway, before Moses came to that, he asked, "What's your name, Burning Bush?" And Burning Bush said, "Oh, you're a tricky little monkey. I am." It didn't say I am who I am, because the only person who says that is Popeye. He said that I am a work in progress, and you are my reflection. I'm seeing how I'm doing by what you guys are doing. Well, pretty much we haven't been doing too good since then. So that's the decision you need to make. And that's a decision John doesn't ever make. What is shaking? JC, David Bowie. So, the interesting why I brought up David. He was like amazed. I mean, he's done all this stuff, and then I just kind of meet him, this like electrician guy, and then I take him on, magical mystery tour. And then we walk all over Manhattan, and and then we walk back up Fifth Avenue to he was at the Waldorf. And so he said, "I'm having a party tomorrow night. I would love it if you would come. I'll put you on the list, Go to the front desk, and I'm in room blah, blah, blah. And go to the front desk and, say that I'm here, and I'll bring you up the elevator, the guy at the door, he has a clipboard, he'll have your name on it, and. So I do. And I go there, and David's there, and he goes, he's talking to all these people, and I notice a number of famous musicians and artists, and a couple of them I know, and because I work in recording studios, I worked at Fillmore East, I worked in, doing art in Soho. It's one of the guys who started Soho. That's a whole nother story. Anyway, and so I filled the plate up, and I had my grandma always did this whenever we went to things like this. She would bring like a suitcase that was, Tupperware, right? So I had my little container too, and I made it even better. The little plastic bags you get in the supermarket, those bags are great. You can fill them up with food and then stick them. I have this big kangaroo coat that has gigantic pockets. And so, I'm like chowing down. And there's this guy sitting next to me with white hair, very, very handsome, very debonair, and very stoned, right? And I'm looking at him. He's looking at me, and I said, "Have you had any of this?" He said, "No." "Are you hungry?" "Yes." "Can I get you a plate, please?" So I did. Got him. What I was liking, I said, "No, those little roly things, really, really tasty." And anyway, so he. Basically, the guy with the white hair, we start talking and talking, and he goes, "Have you ever done LSD?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, I've tasted a little bit." He goes, "Well, I do it all the time. My psychotherapist has advised it, and it has opened my mind. I used to be just a controlled little mouse. And when I was younger, I had a very hard time, and I couldn't get out of that. So I had to always pretend I was somebody else." And I said, "Well, what did you do?" And I said, "Well, I was a movie star." I said, "Oh, who were you?" He goes, "I'm Cary Grant." And I looked at him, and he didn't, once he said his name, that's Cary Grant. But before then, I didn't see it because he was free. He was really, and I said, "So, wasn't your name some very Archibald something?" He said, "Yes," right? And I was a circus entertainer, and I was very, beat down, right? And then when I went to America and I got into movies, because of the way I looked, they said, "Well, we're just going to give you a new name, and you just be that." And that's what he was. And he said that was, in a way, a very healthy way, meaning that I picked a personality. The one I was born with wasn't getting me anywhere, and so I became Cary Grant. And it got me, very famous, very wealthy, lots of women. I've had a number of women who I truly loved, and blah blah blah. And so that was very interesting to see him there and to be as he had totally freed himself. He could just talk to a guy who was like 30 years younger than he was, and be interested in the little points of knowledge I had at that time and perspective I had, and he basically I don't say we became friends, but what happened was he stayed there for another um, 2 or 3 days, and we had lunch every day and walked through the park and Cary Grant, and then before David Bowie left, we had dinner with him, and we had one lunch with him. So for 4 days, I had this David Bowie um, movie star thing, and I was, just, and they were listening to what I was saying as like not like some kid, but like a rabbi, you know. Cary Grant actually said, "You're like a rabbi." I said, "Yes, I know. I have one, and I'm studying to be one." Because I was going on, we were talking about the Kabbalah. David was very interested in the Kabbalah, and so Kabbalah, and so that's what life's about. Those kind of, I didn't, we weren't always in, that was last. I never heard from David or Carrie again. Right? Well, which would be understood because I never had a phone number and I never lived any place. I was always in abandoned buildings, right? Stuff like that. So, but that was a more interesting life than just to be a guy who would, get a paycheck. And I mean, I never had problems making money, and I still don't, you know. And I live like a millionaire on $400 a month. That's it, you know. And any of you guys want to send me a little something in my PayPal? That's the dude awake 42 at Gmail. Any of you guys want to get a hold of me and talk personally? And I talk to about 100 people, who are personally kind, and we have a deeper conversation about things. And if you're living in America, you just give me your phone number, I'll give you a buzz. And if you've got WhatsApp, we could, do that. So I'm pretty accessible, and because I'm never in any place at the same time. So this right here is, I'm helping my friend, and they got really good Wi-Fi, and so I have access to it now. So I can be more, attainable, accessible, right? And John has the best internet there is, and he's really good at it. I mean, he could do so much with his life just from up there. I mean, he has a master's degree in filmmaking. It's an undergraduate degree from the Art Institute. I mean, he could get a job anywhere, but he won't. Right? He could do a lot of things to get his family back, but he won't. Right? And he blames his father. He blames anybody. I mean, he texts. It's interesting about texting and the internet. Unless I delete it, it's there. So I have text messages for the last 4 years, where I really haven't seen John in a good 2.5 years, almost 3 years, physically ever. Haven't. Last time I was there he wanted me to stay there and help him. Blah blah blah. And I brought food to make for him, and I was there all of 10 minutes, and I had a blender because I was making a mole. He didn't have a blender. I brought one with me, but it was something I got at Goodwill, and it was old, and I basically, I don't know if you know anything about electric motors, but they have brushes, right? And so they're real old. They can, smell like ozone, And so I basically, was making something for him, and he screamed, "Are you trying to kill me?" And he said that because the blender smelled like it was kind of, just like not on fire or burning, but it had that ozone smell. Anyway, long story short, he he had, he started screaming at me and saying, "You're trying to kill me! You're trying to kill me! Get out! Get out!" And I said, "John, I'm just making dinner." "No, you're controlling my brain." Ah, John, come on, let's talk this out. "No, get out!" And I said, "John, it's dark and I can't see. Get out!" And then he started, whacking himself in the head. And, I said, "Okay, John, stop whacking yourself in the head." Because the whacking in the head is he wanted to whack me in the head, but he's not going to do that. At least at that moment. Right? So the thing is, John's not crazy. He's neurotic, right? He's, what's the word? Self-involved, to the point of neuroses. That's his real issue because he's got nothing in his life except himself. And he has such self-loathing that that's not working out too good for him, So, he's my friend and I feel for him, but I spent 18 months trying to do everything I know how to do, and it didn't work. He wouldn't do it, meaning, as my mother used to say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, right? And unless, when I worked with people, why I did it as much as I did is because they all wanted to get better, right? That was their motivation. They were the decider on that one, right? And so as long as people wanted to do that and we'd work together, then that was great. I felt good about doing that. But in the 18 months that I was there, I was more or less just enabling John to do what he was doing. So I said, so at time he threw me out. I said, "Well, John, I've been here, I've tried my best, and I'll see you later. Good luck." And I kind of drove away, didn't see him. Now, it was late at night, and I barely could see, and I went to a cul-de-sac I knew about. I mean, just down the road from where the school was, and I could sleep there. No one would bother me, right? And it had cell signal, so I called up everyone I knew to see if I could come over to their house or they could come and get me, and I, left a whole bunch of messages. Nobody answered. But about, I don't know, 40 minutes later, someone called up, "Where are you?" And I told them where I was. "Oh, yeah, I know where that is. I'm going to come and get you." I said, "Okay." So I'm going to an amazing party. I said, "Okay, I'm up for that." And it was a great party. It went on for 3 days. Had bands and music and food and booze and everything else and lots of interesting people. And I just it was a nice night, summertime. I just kind of put up I'm a big hammock guy. So I put up my hammock and put my little mosquito netting over me, and then played all night long and slept early morning in the hammock, and then played all day long, and it was great. So if I had been thrown out by John, I wouldn't have experienced that great party. That's one of the top 10 parties I've ever been to, and I give it about a 6 because I've been at some pretty off the hook. Go Google Joe College Weekend at UNC, Chapel Hill. And I had friends at Duke that were, there, and I was hanging out in their, they were all, frat boys, but I went to prep school with them, so, they weren't that fratty. And so a good portion of them didn't go home for spring break, weren't going to go. Why, no, I'm just going to stay here. This is a nice place. I like this place. So and they always had parties. I mean, they had they had parties that made Animal House look like nothing. And I said, there are a lot of people on this campus at UNC that aren't going home. There's probably going to be 10,000 people, between those two schools that are still going to be here. So why don't we have a party for 10,000 people? And they said, "That's a great idea. How are we going to do that?" And I said, "Well, I just had a phone call from a friend of mine who's a road boss of a tour, and it's the Grateful Dead, and it's who else was it? Grateful Dead, some other really good bands that I'm drawing a blank too. And anyway, so they had 3 days, and so they cruised in there, and we put them up in a nice frat house, and the frat boys got out, and they came in, and it was an amazing party, and it was 20,000 people, and someone brought in a truckload of party favors and hosed everyone down, and they were like. And so people were like, half the people they wanted to be like Woodstock. They ripped their clothes off. They were running around the campus of Duke, jumping into anything that seemed like a pond, and having sex everywhere. And the poor police, they didn't know what to do. I mean, it was like, 300 policemen, 20,000 crazy, young, rich, powerful people stoned out of their minds, having sex and having a good time. So they just kind of tiptoed away. And that was the first Joe College Weekend. So go Google that, Joe College Weekend, see what you get. And that came out of a smoky den in a fraternity of guys who had more money to know what to do with. And I just said, hey, let's have the big party, the biggest party. 10,000 people, 20,000 people showed up. So it was one of those interesting times. So let's see what the strangers do.
Work units for the best work in any of the 5 groups, and the committee have awarded it to number 6. Speech, my dear chap.
Right, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow citizens, my work is its own satisfaction.
Spoken like a true artist.
I am, however, deeply honored by this award. I feel, nevertheless, that it should have gone not to me, but to someone whose work, long life in this village has been an example to us all. Number 38. It's not for me to reverse the decision of the committee. However, I would like to use these 2,000.
These 2,000. So anyway, what do we got here? Let's see. Well, I'm never a big fan of weapons. I worked for the New York City Housing Authority as a policeman. Can you imagine that? I had started a housing, well, I didn't start, but a group of us started a housing coalition, and we took over 50 abandoned buildings and housed 500 homeless families. And the city fought us every inch of the way. I mean, to the point where they brought out the cops, and they would just break into our domiciles and beat us up. And because they wanted to force us to be violent. And I'm saying, no, this ain't the way to go. And so how we got over all of this is that we got the Women's Nuevo Rican Poetry Alliance to come and dance and sing and read poetry to the policemen, because they just would be everywhere, right? So to make our lives, unlivable. Well, we just read them poetry and did art with them and got them involved in our community, and they loved it. Made them feel real, not like a policeman. Made them feel cared about, not like a policeman. And and so they told their bosses, "We're not going to beat these people up anymore. They're nice." And we were blowing their shorts off in court. They kept taking us to court and kept winning, because we used the Homestead Act of 1876. And I had buddies of mine who, when I worked for Ralph Nader, these guys became really good lawyers, and they just ate the city alive. Plus, the city had no money. They were still kind of broke, right? And all the rich people were just buying up everything at a, on the nickel. So. Yeah. Anyway, um, so I just wanted to touch base with you. Say, guys, I'm going to be on the air more regularly, and for the next month or two or three, and I have no idea where I'm going to be, what I'm going to do. I'm only going to work with John if he is ready to get a life. Because he's got so much in him. He's got so much talent, so much, education, so much experience of being miserable. If he could take that and help others who are miserable, that would be an amazingly valuable life, right? But what he's doing now, not so much. And what he does on his show, that's why I don't watch it. It's the same thing all the time. He goes on about the Bible, and he really hasn't read it, right? And so, because he only reads the New Testament, and that's like I think King James is just an advertisement for the Roman Empire. So, any more want a thumbs up? That'd be nice. It's 10 of you there, so there's probably 30 of you watching, so that's nice. Hope you're getting something out of this. So I had to get out of the deep woods. I spent all last winter there, and it was interesting. I mean, I got snowed in from Christmas Eve till Valentine's Day. And, but no one could get to me. I couldn't get out. I had hurt myself. I had no phone there. They'd find me in the spring, squirrels eating me. And I am getting older. even though I'm feeling pretty good, I still have a lot of things wrong with me. But I saw my doctor the other day because I was going to hit the road and I wanted to, have him look under the hood. And he said, well, you're still a sick fuck, but you're the most healthy sick fuck I know, So anyway, that's it, because, I normally could have, lots of things going wrong, but they're not, So, and that's pretty much from conscious intent, I am. Conscious intent, I am. Conscious intent, I am. And that's how it goes. So, it is good to see you too, David. I can't read. Oh, Divine Fish. Oh, Fish, how you doing? Good to see you, buddy. Thanks for the thumbs up. Yep. Oh, look. Yep, we're getting up there. And tell people about it. It'd be nice to have, more than 1,000 subscribers. I hate calling you guys subscribers. You're my cadre. And, what I really get out of doing this is that, especially when you guys get a hold of me at the dude awake 42 at Gmail. Now you have to realize that, in the last year, I've had I have to go someplace, right? Now, in the next weeks or months, I'll have more time. And I get so much spam. It's like mindfuck. It's like, I mean, that's one way the powers that be are trying to, they make it hard for me to do this, and then they just jam up every avenue I have with spam. It's like, okay. And that is how desperate, an old guy like me who's just kind of, a stream of consciousness going on, really, I keep telling you guys, I worked for you for years. I'm ready to go back to work because you definitely need me more than I need you. It's like, because you're putting, thinking, basically everything's scripted. We got, what's his name? Moron boy, Donnie Chump. He was he had a TV show for 10 years called The Apprentice. What was he apprenticing? To be president, to fire everybody. That's all he did. You're fired. The only thing that he passed within the dynamics of legislature is giving the richest people in the trillions of dollars. They they didn't just get $2 trillion. They got $2 trillion for the rest of eternity. That's why guys like Jeffrey Bezos doesn't pay taxes. It's because of that. And then getting JoJo, the used car salesman, that guy, he put basically 60 million African Americans in jail over the last 20, 30 years since Bill Clinton, however long that was. Anyway, but those things are just almost irrelevant. What's relevant is what you do with your life, right? So I'm going to have another show tomorrow. I might have two. Might have one during the day, one at night, right? Because half of you guys are all over the planet, and so when I'm doing this now somewhere in New Zealand, it's morning for them. So anyway, so I love you guys, and I want you to be happy. And again, get a hold of me with whatever you want to talk about, and at the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. And if you really feel upset about political whatevers, right? The best thing to do, it's like me. I'm live like a millionaire on $400 a month, right? And so I I don't buy anything, and I got so much stuff, and I have this magic box that I go, oh, I need toothpicks. I kind of run around the magic box. Oh, toothpicks. Like here, I don't even know what I did with it, but I got here at my friend's, and they needed, this thing was falling apart, and they didn't have any sheetrock screws. And I was like, sheetrock screws. Oh, I wish I had some. And right in my pocket, in my kangaroo pocket, I had a box of sheetrock screws that were 1.5 inches long. Perfect. Just what we needed. I don't remember putting them in there. So that's, that is conscious intent I am, And so this ain't rocket science. You can do this. So if you're upset that Wall Street is making so much cash, don't buy anything. Period. The prices will come tumbling down, and that's the story. Okay, so like I said, I will get a hold of you guys tomorrow, and you have a good night's sleep, and I love you all, and just cut back on your consumption. Okay.